Welcome and good evening. Settle yourself however you are resting now, and let the day loosen and slip away. Nothing here needs your attention, and nothing tonight needs to be finished, so you may follow the story as long as you like, and let it go the moment you would rather drift. Let your breath grow slow and even. Let your hands lie open and your eyes close. And we will go quietly and in no hurry at all, down to the edge of a wide, dark lake, deep in the old forest, on the stillest night of the year. A wanderer came down to the edge of the lake late in the night, when the roads behind him had emptied, and there was nowhere left that he needed to reach. He was in no hurry. He had been walking for many days, and over those days the walking had grown slow and gentle. And here, at the water, it simply stopped. He stood where the last of the soft path met the shore, and set down the small bundle he had carried, and let his shoulders drop, and looked out over the lake and was quiet. There was nothing here that asked anything of him at all. The water lay flat and wide before him, dark and smooth, and silver where the dim moon touched it. Old Lake Svetlo Yar, the people called it, deep and calm and very old. He let his breathing slow until it fell in with the slow breathing of the water. The night was mild, and there was no wind. A soft rain had begun to fall, so fine that it was almost only a coolness on the air, touching the calm lake here and there with slow and widening rings. The reeds along the shore stirred a little, and then were still. The smell of the water came up gently around him, clean and cool. The smell of the lake and the wet reeds and the old stones at the margin of the shore. The water was still. The rain falls softly on the lake. And somewhere far out and far down, beneath the smooth, dark surface, there was a sound so faint that it might have been only the memory of a sound. A low and rounded note, worn soft by all the deep water above it. Then a long quiet. Then, after a while, and without any hurry at all, the same low note again, rising up from somewhere far below. He did not lean toward it, and he did not try to give it a name. He only stood at the edge of the wide, dark water, and let it be what it was, which was calm. The moon showed dim and soft through the thin cloud, and laid a pale and broken road of light across the lake, from the far shore all the way to where he stood. The rain fell through the light without a sound. The rings from the rain spread and crossed and faded on the water, and each time they faded the lake grew smooth again. and each time it grew smooth, it held the dim moon again, whole and unbroken, as though nothing at all had touched it. There was no one else along the shore. There was no light but the moon, and no sound but the soft rain, and the faint far note beneath the water, and his own slow breath. The lake is still. The bells are far below. He stood a long while and asked nothing of the night, and the wide watcher lay quiet and dark and patient under the moon, the way still water lies when it has been at peace for a very long time. Long ago, the old people used to say, there had been a city here, on ground that lay now beneath the lake. It was a small white city of churches and low stone walls and quiet gardens, with round golden domes that had caught the morning light, and a wooden jetty where the fishing boats were tied. It stood on the near shore of Svetlo Yar, among the reeds, in a season so far back that no one living could remember it, and only the gentle story of it remained, handed down soft and worn from one quiet evening to the next. And the story was a gentle one. There had been no ruin and no falling, the old people said. One still season, quietly, and in its own good time, the city had simply grown ready for its long rest. The people laid down their work in the evening light. The doors were closed, the way doors are closed at night. The bells in the tower slowed and softened and rang more and more slowly, until the ringing was hardly ringing at all, only a single low note, held out long and calm over the darkening water. And then the calm water rose. It rose gently, and without hurry and without harm, the way the warm tide of sleep rises over someone who has worked a long day and is glad to lie down at last. It came up over the low walls and over the gardens and over the round golden domes softly and closed above them, and gathered them in, and held them, and kept them exactly as they had been. Nothing was broken in the rising. Nothing was lost. The water only drew the whole small city down into its own deep calm. It drew down the walls and the domes and the jetty and the gardens, all of it, and folded the calm water over them the way you fold something precious in soft cloth, and put it carefully and gladly away. The lake closed above the city, smooth and dark, and grew still, and it has stayed still ever since. That was all a very long time ago, and it was all finished, and it had been finished and quiet for hundreds of quiet years. The city did not drown, and it did not end. It only went down into the still water whole. It went on beneath the water, whole and untroubled and sleeping. Its walls still stood in the deep, clear dark. Its gardens still held their shape below the surface. Its round dome still rose, soft and pale from the drowned streets, and its bells still hung in the tower, waiting in no hurry for the rare and quiet nights when they might sound. The water was smooth. The city is safe below. Nothing pressed on it. Nothing hurried it. The long weight of the lake lay over it as gently as a blanket lies over a sleeping child. And the wanderer stood on the shore where that white city had once stood, in the soft and falling rain, under the dim and clouded moon, and thought of it all resting quietly down there, unhurried and safe and whole. There was nothing here to save, and nothing to mourn, and nothing to be done but rest. The lake had been resting for a very long time, and standing there at its edge, in the cool, clean air, with the rain coming down soft on the water, it seemed the most natural and easy thing in the world to grow still and rest along with it. After a while, the wanderer walked a little way along the shore, in no direction, only following the soft, dark line where the land met the water. The ground was cool and yielding underfoot, and gave a little at each step, and made no sound. The reeds stood tall and dark beside him, taller than a man, and they moved when the air moved, and stilled again when the air was still. There was thick, soft moss on the old stones near the water, cold and deep and green, and the low, clean smell of lake water and wet wood lay over everything. He passed the things that a quiet shore keeps. A leaning post, gray and soft with age, where boats had once been tied. An iron ring set into the post, cold and dark and smooth, quiet under his fingers when he touched it, and then he let it go. A flat stone worn low by long years of stepping. A little rowboat drawn up and turned over on the bank long ago, its wood gone soft and pale, half sunk in the moss and the reeds. He touched each of them lightly as he passed, and asked nothing of them and walked on. The reeds were dark. The water was dark. The far shore was dark and lost in the soft rain. Nothing moved that did not move gently. The rain falls softly on the lake, and on the reeds and on his shoulders, so fine it was hardly wet at all, only cool. He walked until the walking felt like enough, and then, where the shore curved, he came to a jetty of old gray wood that reached a little way out over the water, worn smooth by long years, and long since gone soft and low at its edges. He stepped onto it slowly, and the old boards took his weight without complaint, and made only the smallest sound, a low and settled creak, and then were quiet. He walked out along it, over the reeds and over the shallow water, and then over the deep, until the shore was behind him and the wide dark lake lay open all around. Out here the reeds fell away. Out here there was only the water, close and calm on either side, and the pale broken road of the moon laid out long across it, and the soft rain falling on it without a sound. He sat down at the end of the old jetty and let his feet hang toward the water and let his hands rest open in his lap. The night held him without any weight at all. The lake is still. The bells are far below. The moon lay dim and soft on the smooth black water, and the rain touched the surface here and there, and each touch opened a slow ring that widened and thinned and was gone, and left the water smoother than before. He did not lean to listen. He only sat and breathed and let the night be quiet around him. And the faint far note came up again through all that deep water, low and round and worn soft, the way the last note of a bell comes to you across a wide field at evening, more felt than heard. It came, and then it was quiet a long while, and then, without hurry, it came again, slower still. He did not count them. He did not need to. They came to him on their own, or they did not, and either way was well, and either way the night was calm. The water was still. The rain fell. And he sat at the end of the jetty, at ease in the dark, when the water was very calm, and the moon was high enough to reach down into it. A person sitting quietly could look past their own dim reflection and see, or almost see, the soft shapes of the old city far below the surface. The wanderer looked and let his eyes go slow and soft, and after a while they were there. Pale and green with all the depth, and blurred kindly at their edges, the drowned streets lay far beneath him, calm and unmoving in the cold, clear dark, held gently by the weight of the still water. There were the round tops of the domes, soft and pale, rising from the deep the way hills rise out of an early mist. There were the white lines of the walls, laid out in quiet squares below, the shapes of the gardens between them, and the long straight line of a street that no one walked. And there, standing tall and calm among them all, was the bell tower, straight and unbroken, reaching up through the fathoms toward the surface, its bells hanging small and dim and silent in the dark near its top. Nothing down there stirred. Nothing down there hurried. The city rested on the bed of the lake the way, A stone rests in the palm of a hand, settled and at ease, and holding its own good shape without effort in the cold, clear dark. It asked for nothing. It was not waiting to rise, and it was not sorry to be down there in the quiet. It was only kept and calm and whole exactly where it belonged, a small white city folded into the deep and left to sleep, hundreds of soft years deep in the still water. The water was clear. The city is safe below. The wanderer looked down at it for a long and unhurried while, resting his eyes on the pale domes and the quiet walls, the way you rest your eyes on the low coals of a fire, seeing them without thinking of them, letting them hold your gaze without asking anything of you. The soft rain touched the surface above the sunken city, and the slow rings spread out over it and blurred the pale shapes below, and then cleared, and there they were again, calm and dim and whole. He thought in a slow and driftless way of the streets down there in the dark, of the quiet squares and the closed doors, and the gardens holding their shape under the water, of the little houses, each one kept whole and safe and cool in the deep, of the wide, unhurried peace of a whole city laid down to rest, all its work long finished, all its evenings long since come, keeping nothing but its own soft shape and its own deep quiet, far down beneath the smooth, dark surface of the lake. And the more he looked, the softer it all grew. The pale domes blurred gently into the dark. The white walls grew dim and dimmer and let go of being seen. His eyes went soft and softer, and the deep city slipped away below them into the calm green dark, not lost, only no longer needing to be looked at. The water was smooth again above it. The moon lay on the water, and the wanderer let his gaze rise slowly back to the surface, to the pale road of the moon, and the soft rain, and the wide and quiet lake, holding it all so gently in the dark. The bells of the sunken city rang very rarely, and very softly, and only on the stillest nights, and this was such a night. The sound did not come sudden, or sharp or clear. It came up slowly through all the deep water, the way warmth comes up through a heavy blanket, rounded and muffled, and worn down soft by every fathom it had passed on the long way up. By the time it reached the surface, and the cool air and the wanderer sitting quiet at the end of the jetty, it was hardly a sound at all. It was closer to the feeling of a sound, remembered from somewhere warm. It was not a call. It was not a warning of anything, and there was nothing in it that meant anyone should stir. It was closer to the sound a house makes when everyone inside it has gone to sleep, and is warm and is content. A low and settled note that means only that all is well, and all is finished, and nothing more is needed tonight. The wanderer breathed with it. A bell would sound, so faint that it was almost only felt, low in the chest, and then a long and open quiet, and then another, slower still. The lake is still. The bells are far below. There was all the time in the world between one soft note and the next, and he rested in that time, in the wide space the bells left around themselves. The rain falls softly on the lake. The rings spread and faded. The mist had begun, very slowly, to lift off the far water in low, pale ropes and lie along the surface and soften the edges of the night. And still, now and then, the faint round note rose up from far below and opened out over the water and thinned, and was gone into the quiet. He thought of the bells themselves, down there in the deep. Old bells and heavy, and green with the long years of the water, hanging still and patient in the drowned tower, in the cold, clear dark. They did not toll, and they did not clamor. They only sounded once softly, when the deep water stirred them, or when the old hands below drew gently on the ropes, and then they hung quiet again, in no hurry at all, waiting for the next long, still while to pass before they sounded once more. And the sound they made was a kind and a gentle one. It came up soft through the fathoms, and out across the smooth, dark lake, and over the reeds and over the shore, and it laid itself down over everything like a low and easy hush. It was the sound of a thing kept safe, ringing softly to say so. It was the sound of a whole city sleeping, and glad to sleep, letting one slow note rise now, and then to tell the quiet night that all below was well. The water was still. The mist lay soft on the lake. The wanderer let the bells come to him however they would, and let them go again, and did not reach after them. When a note rose, he heard it, low and round and far. When the long quiet came between, he rested in the quiet, and the quiet was as kind as the bell. His breathing had grown very slow now, slow and low and even, falling in with the wide, slow rhythm of the lake, and the far soft bells, and the soft and falling rain. There was nothing to listen for. There was only the listening, easy and unhurried, in the calm dark by the water. If there were still bell ringers down in the sunken city, and the old stories quietly said that there were, then they were in no hurry either. They were calm and dim and kindly figures in the deep water, the old monks of the drowned churches, standing at their ropes below in their long gray robes, the way they had always stood, at peace and untroubled and entirely unbothered by all the long years that had passed over the top of the lake. They did not mind the water. They did not mind the dark. They had grown as gentle and as patient as the deep itself. They kept the slow time of the city below, these old quiet ones, and there was nothing fearful about them, and nothing to fear. They were only presences, soft and dim and kind, as much a part of the calm deep as the pale domes and the quiet walls. They moved slowly when they moved at all. One of them, now and then, on a still enough night, would rest his old hands on a rope and draw on it gently once, and let a single bell sound softly up through the water, and then rest again and be still. They rang a bell when the night was quiet enough to carry it, and then they let a long while pass before they rang another. Between the notes they rested, the way anyone rests between one small and easy task and the next, standing quiet in the dim green light of the deep, in no hurry, content to let the slow hours drift by. They kept no anxious watch. There was nothing down there that needed guarding, and nothing that could come to harm. There was only the sleeping city to keep company, and the slow, soft time to keep, and the bells to sound now and then. The water held them gently, the way it held everything in the drowned city, close and cool and calm on every side. And they kept the bells, and the bells kept the quiet, and the quiet rose up soft and slow through all the deep water, and out across the smooth, dark surface, and came at last to the wanderer on the shore, and stayed with him, and settled over him like a hand laid gently on the shoulder of someone half asleep. The city is safe below. The bells are far below and kind. He thought of them without any fear at all, the old gray ringers in the deep, and the thought of them was a warm one. He thought of them standing patient at their ropes in the cold, clear dark, keeping the slow bells of the sleeping city, hundreds of quiet years, and asking for nothing, and troubling no one, and letting the long night pass. They were only doing, gently, what they had always done. And far above them, on the shore, in the soft rain, the wanderer rested and was glad of them and grew a little heavier and a little more still. The mist lay soft on the water now, and the moon shone dim behind it, and the reeds stood dark and quiet along the shore. The rain falls softly on the lake, and somewhere far below, in the deep and gentle dark, An old hand drew once slowly on a rope, and a single bell sounded, low and round and worn soft, and rose up through the fathoms, and opened out over the water, and thinned away into the wide, calm quiet of the night. And then there was the long, kind quiet again, and he rested in it, easy and unhurried by the still dark lake. The smooth surface of the lake held the whole of the night upon its back without any effort at all. The dim moon, and the pale broken road of the moonlight, and the few slow stars where the cloud had thinned, and the dark low rim of the far trees, all of it laid down flat and calm and unmoving on the black water. The wanderer watched the reflection more than he watched the sky, because the reflection was nearer and softer and dimmer, and asked less of his eyes. It lay just below him on the water, quiet and whole, a second and a gentler night. Now and then a soft ring spread across the reflection from a single drop of rain, a slow circle opening and widening until it thinned away at last into the dark. And then the water was smooth again, and held the dim moon again, exactly as it had before, as though the ring had never been. The water was still. The moon is on the lake. Each ring came and opened and vanished, unhurried and complete, and the stillness that closed over it afterward seemed a little deeper than the stillness that had been there before. It was as though the lake breathed out, very slightly, with each slow ring, and settled a little further down into its own long rest. And the wanderer, watching, breathed out with it, and settled a little further too, his shoulders lower, his hands looser, his gaze gone soft on the dim and moving water. The mist lay on the surface now, low and pale and slow. It had lifted off the far reaches of the lake in soft ropes and lay along the water without ever quite rising, and it softened everything and drew the wide night gently in. The far shore let go of being seen and went dim behind the mist, and then was gone. The dark line of the far trees went soft and dim, and then was gone as well. The reeds along the near shore grew faint and pale in the mist, and the world drew in, slowly and kindly, closer and closer, until there was only the little circle of dark water in front of the wanderer, and the soft mist around him, and the dim fading road of the moon, and the rain coming down through all of it without a sound. Everything far away had let go of being seen. It was all still there. The far shore was still there, and the trees and the wide reaches of the lake and the deep sunken city below. They had only stopped needing to be looked at. The mist is slow. The lake is quiet. The wanderer breathed the cool, damp air and felt it move into him and out of him again, slow and low and easy. And each breath was a little longer than the one before it, and a little quieter, and he let them come and go and did not count them either. The mist grew a little thicker, and the moon behind it a little dimmer, a pale, soft place in the gray rather than a moon, and the light on the water grew gentle and low. The night was closing itself in, softly, the way you draw a blanket up over your shoulder in the deep of the night without ever quite waking. There was less and less to see now, and less that asked to be seen. The water was still. The mist lay soft and low, and the wanderer sat quiet at the heart of it all, wrapped in the cool gray calm, and rested, and was content. Below the mist and the moonlit surface, and the long dark fathoms of the still water, the white city went on sleeping, as it had slept for hundreds of years, and would sleep for hundreds more. Its walls stood quiet in the deep. Its gardens held their shape in the cold, clear dark. Its doors were closed against nothing at all, only closed, the way doors are closed at night over a house full of sleepers. No wind reached down there. No trouble reached down there. The long, slow years passed over the top of the lake and did not touch the calm bottom at all. The city neither aged, nor waited, nor wished to be anywhere else than where it was. It was exactly where it belonged, kept safe and whole by the calm, dark weight of the water, and it rested and asked for nothing. The water is deep. The city is still. There was nothing down there to save, and nothing to fear, and nothing left undone. And so everything rested, all of it. The walls and the domes and the gardens and the old gray ringers at their ropes. And far above them on the shore, the wanderer rested too, in the same slow calm. The bells came slower now. The long quiets between them stretched longer and longer, and each note, when at last it rose, was fainter than the one before, and rounder, and further away, until they were less like bells than like the soft idea of bells, remembered from somewhere warm and long ago. He had stopped counting them. He had stopped without noticing, doing anything at all but sit quiet at the end of the old jetty, with the mist around him and the deep water below. He felt the whole great gentle weight of the water settle him, the way still water settles everything it holds, downward and slow and complete. His shoulders were loose. His hands lay open. His breath came slow and low and far apart. There was one more faint bell, a long way down, and then a long and open quiet, and the quiet was wide and soft and had no edges anywhere. The mist lay on the water. The moon had moved a little, and its pale road had grown dim, and the slow stars turned above it all without a sound. There is nothing more that needs to happen tonight. Nothing is going to happen. The night will only deepen and soften and grow more and more still. There is no need to think of it, and no need to think of anything at all. There is only the wide, dark lake, and the soft falling rain, and the faint, kind bells far below, and the whole white city sleeping safe beneath the still water. The city is safe. The lake is still. It is all so very calm now, and so quiet and so far away. There is nothing to hold on to, and nothing you need to keep watch over, for it is all watched over already, all of it, every quiet and sleeping thing. So there is nothing left to do now but rest. Let the rain fall soft on the lake. Let the mist lie low on the water. Let the far bells sound, or not sound, however they will, down in the gentle dark. Let the wide lake hold you, the way the still water holds the sleeping city, close and cool and quiet and safe. Let your breath grow slow and your shoulders grow heavy, and the last small thoughts of the day settle softly, one by one, and sink and grow still, like slow rings fading on calm water. There is nowhere you need to be, and nothing you need to do, and nothing here but the soft rain and the still lake and the faint kind bells far below. And you may let yourself grow heavy now, and calm and still and drift gently and without a single care, all the way down into a deep and quiet and peaceful sleep.